was February 1987 when the temperature in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan dropped to -34 degrees. By noon that Tuesday, most families had burned through their carefully stored oak and maple, desperately rationing wood they'd cut all summer. But in a small cabin near Iron River, a man named Henrik Sorensen had another problem. He had too much firewood left, and his masonry heater was still comfortably maintaining 72 degrees inside. The wood he was burning wasn't oak. It wasn't the premium hardwoods every expert told him to cut. It was something locals had been throwing in their brush piles for decades. Eastern cottonwood. Henrik Sorensen had arrived in Michigan in 1982 with his wife, 2 children, $3,400 in savings, and the knowledge his grandfather had brought from Sweden. His wife had died in the summer of 1986 pneumonia, from a home they couldn't heat properly. He wasn't about to fail again. He was 41 years old. He'd spent his first winter cutting what everyone told him to cut: oak, hickory, ash, the traditional hardwoods. But those winters had been brutal. His fuel costs were climbing, his family was cold, and he noticed something that most people did on the cottonwood trees that covered the abandoned pastures around his property, the ones locals called trashwood and burned only when desperate. Those trees had a secret. He'd watched his grandfather in the old country heat an entire stone house with inferior wood using one specific technique. A technique nobody in Michigan seemed to remember. But when Henrik mentioned his plan, he faced immediate resistance. Frank Hillman was a timber contractor with 34 years of experience cutting wood in Michigan. He'd supplied wood to families across 3 counties. His objection was simple: cottonwood has no place in anyone's stove. It's soft. It's low BTU. It burns too fast. You'll go through twice as much of it and still freeze. Dr. Robert Chun, who'd moved to the area in 1985 and kept careful weather records, was skeptical from a scientific standpoint. Cottonwood has roughly 16 million BTS per cord, compared to oak at 27 million. The physics don't support it. You need the energy density. Father Michael Walsh, who'd served the parish for 22 years and counseled families through hard winters, worried about responsibility. If people start burning inferior wood because of what you're doing, and families freeze because they don't have proper fuel, that's a sin on us both. You'd be spreading bad advice. And Margaret Foster, who owned a general store and had watched 3 families nearly lose homes to inadequate heating in the 1970s, was blunt. I've seen what happens when people experiment with cheap solutions during Michigan winters. People die. Their concerns weren't petty. They were earned through experience and loss. Henrik wasn't suggesting anyone burn cottonwood in a regular stove. He was building a masonry heater, a Russian technology his grandfather had used, refined over centuries, and largely forgotten in North America. The principle was thermal mass. A masonry heater stores heat in its stone structure, allowing you to burn intense, hot fires in very short bursts. You burn the wood completely and efficiently, and then the stone slowly releases that heat for 12 to 24 hours. In his grandfather's village, they'd heated entire homes with birch wood softer than cotton would be. It goes masonry heaters extract energy with ruthless efficiency. The technical principle: a standard wood stove might extract 50 to 60% of wood's energy. A well-designed masonry heater, with its catalytic chamber and thermal mass, captures 85 to 90%. That meant lower BTU. Wood could deliver premium results. His specific design called for 2,400 pounds of stone, carefully fitted, a combustion chamber of specific dimensions 40 by 60 centimeters, a secondary heating chamber where gases would fully combust before any heat escaped. The entire structure would take 6 cords of locally milled stone and 4 months to build. The measurements mattered. The efficiency of cottonwood in a masonry heater came from complete combustion, not wood density. In T-system cottonwood's fast burn rate, something that made it useless, in stoves became an advantage. It burned at high temperatures, fully, completely. Each problem Frank raised, Henrik solved. Twice as much firewood, not if you extract 85% of its energy instead of 50%. Low BT won't work. It will in a system that captures nearly all of it. Physics don't support it. The physics of thermal mass absolutely support it, and 7 centuries of Russian heating proved it. Henrik began building in March 1987. May. He brought in the stone from a local mason who had leftover materials from a courthouse restoration. His son helped him fit each piece, using lime mortar. The work was meticulous, no gaps, meant no heat loss. They averaged 8 to 10 stones per day. June. The combustion chamber was completed. A specialist from Michigan State, brought in by Dr. Chun, to verify the design, not to dismiss. It examined the proportions and nodded. Your combustion zone temperatures will reach 1,100 degrees if you build the draft correctly, the engineer confirmed. At that temperature, even softwood burns completely. July, they built the secondary chamber and began test fires with offcuts from a local mill. The entire neighborhood noticed. The heater worked. Heat poured into the cabin steadily. Henrik adjusted the stone placement in one section after the first test, recognizing a slight thermal leak. His grandfather's knowledge, combined with this engineer's validation, guided each modification. Neighbors began watching, not believing yet. Watching. August, Henrik stockpiled cottonwood, not the hardwoods others were cutting. The trees everyone had discarded. His family hauled branches and trunks from 3 abandoned properties. The wood cost him nothing, just time and gasoline. By September, the heater was complete. He'd spent 320 hours on the build. Cost him roughly $800, including materials. He had 12 full cords of cottonwood stacked and seasoning in his yard. The winter of 1987-88 was brutal. In January, a blizzard stalled over the Upper Peninsula for 72 hours. The temperature dropped to minus 28 degrees. Fahrenheit. Wind gusts hit 47 miles per hour. For 3 days, the region was effectively isolated. In Henrik's cabin on January 16th, the interior temperature held steady at 71 degrees. He burned 8 pieces of cottonwood per day, roughly 2 pounds each. He read by lamplight. His children played cards. They stayed warm. 3 miles away, Frank Hillman's traditional wood stove fed with carefully cut oak ran through 45 pounds of hardwood per day. By the 3rd day, his interior temperature had dropped to 54 degrees. He burned his children's furniture for fuel. Dr. Chun's modern high-efficiency stove consumed 38 pounds of premium hardwood daily. His house, scientific and correct, still dropped to 58 degrees. Father Walsh, whose parish house had 3 old stoves, went through 75 pounds per day across all 3. By day 2, he was rationing heat to the sanctuary only. The rectory dropped to 46 degrees. Margaret Foster, whose general store had the best modern heating equipment money could buy, exhausted her wood supply by day 2 and sheltered in the back room with 2 electric heaters running on a generator that was burning through fuel faster than she could calculate. 4 people in the county suffered frostbite. 2 were hospitalized for hypothermia. An elderly woman in a house with inadequate heating died. Henrik's cabin never dropped below 68 degrees. On the 4th day, when the roads had been plowed, Frank Hillman walked to Henrik's cabin carrying a thermometer. He measured the interior temperature. 70 degrees. He measured the stone, still radiating at 38 degrees from residual heat. He asked how much wood was burned. 16 pieces of cottonwood over 4 days, maybe 32 pounds total. Frank Hillman, who had 34 years of experience, who had advised 3 counties on heating, stood in that cabin and said, "I was wrong about the wood, and I was wrong about what I didn't understand about heating." Within 2 weeks, Margaret Forster asked Henrik to show her the design. Dr. Chun requested detailed measurements. Father Walsh asked if Henrik would teach the technique to families in the parish. By March 1988, 4 families in the immediate area had started building masonry heaters. By the following winter, 17 families had them. The cost was low. The results were undeniable. The wood previously worthless became valuable again, not because it was better, but because people finally understood how to use it. Frank Hillman spent the next 5 years helping others build masonry heaters in Michigan. He died in 1994, and his obituary mentioned, specifically, that he'd helped pioneer efficient heating in the Upper Peninsula, acknowledging the techniques that had changed the region. By 1995, over 340 families in the Upper Peninsula had masonry heaters. The design spread to Wisconsin, Minnesota, and eventually across northern states. Fuel consumption dropped by an average of 65% among families who switched from traditional stoves to masonry heating systems. Modern research, conducted by the Rocky Mountain Institute in the 2010s, validated exactly what Henrik's grandfather had known. Masonry heaters extract 88% of available energy from wood, compared to 50 to 65% for conventional stoves. A low BTU wood in a high-efficiency system outperforms premium wood in an inefficient one. The cottonwood, the trash wood, had been poor, only because people were using the wrong technology to burn it. The moment the rise system existed, everything changed. What Henrik proved was this: conventional wisdom often isn't wrong, it's just incomplete. Frank Hillman was right that cottonwood is low BTU. He was just operating within a system that couldn't overcome that limitation. The solution wasn't better wood, it was better understanding. The principle applies beyond firewood. Every industry has trash solutions that work brilliantly under the right conditions. Every community doubts what it hasn't proven locally, even when the proof exists elsewhere. And every important innovation faces legitimate skepticism, but skepticism answered with evidence, not argument, has power nothing else possesses. Henrik Sorensen lived to 1998, surviving pneumonia in 1991 when his masonry heater kept his home warm enough that antibiotics could work. He didn't become famous. He didn't write papers, but his heater still warms that cabin, and dozens of his students teach others still. The best solutions often come from understanding what we already have, not pursuing what we don't.